Are you a good doctor?
I used to be. I won an award once from the mayor. Had an expensive frame.
They're all gonna die.
The day I get out of prison, my own brother picks me up in a police car.
Nicely done by the producers. I finally get out of prison. They pick me up in a police car. Our first story, I've got him. John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment. This is why I tell people, anybody asks me, you got to get to the AmericanExperiment.org and check out their stuff. You're going to read stuff you don't find anywhere else, and I get you on to answer my questions. The getting out of jail thing. You guys got a big story. You guys came up with who Glon did it. Glon does some good reporting, by the way. The habeas 1000. I'm just a knucklehead. Habeas corpus. I think I read that or heard that term in like a Canon Files TV show back in the 70s. I don't even know what a habeas corpus is, but this is a big story. Can you tell us what's going on?
Well, I'll try to, Al. So habeas corpus is a writ that can be issued by a court. It goes back, I believe, to the Magna Carta, which was signed in 1215 by King John under duress. And basically, habeas corpus means produce the body. And a habeas corpus petition is one that is brought by a prisoner claiming that he is wrongfully imprisoned or wrongfully detained. Most habeas corpus petitions are brought by people who are in prison, who have been convicted, and they are routinely denied. What we've seen here in Minnesota is something very different. These illegal aliens all have free lawyers. And when they get picked up by ICE, these free lawyers will run into federal court and try to get in front of a Democratic Party judge here in Minnesota. And they'll present a petition for a writ of habeas corpus. And in many, many instances, I think there have been 1,000 such petitions now, just in the last, month or so, whatever it's been, 2 months. Which is totally unprecedented. In a typical year, there might be in that court, I don't know, 30 or 40 in a year. Okay. So this is bonkers. This is bonkers. And many of these some of these judges, when they get these petitions, will grant them and order the illegal alien released without even hearing from the government. And the Justice Department does not have enough lawyers in Minnesota. They've sent people from other jurisdictions to Minnesota to try to respond to this unbelievable wave of habeas corpus petitions, as well as other work being done in the U.S. Attorney's Office, the enormous numbers of frauds that they're prosecuting. And they can't keep up. They don't have the manpower to respond, to all these orders. So occasionally, like the judge will say, release him within 4 hours or something. Well, they don't even get the petition. They try to figure out who is this guy, where is he, and they may not get him released until it's 5 hours, right? And then the judge gets mad and threatens to put a lawyer in prison. It's an insane situation. And it's another example of the Democratic Party appropriating and misusing the judicial process to advance political ends.
Maybe I'm not understanding the judicial branch like I thought. Isn't the judicial branch just as much about preserving safety to Americans as anyone else? I get it. Somebody can be wrongfully put in. You need the habeas corpus. If you got the wrong guy, let's do this. But they're saying if you did 1,000 of them this month or in the last 2 months, 1,000 times the government in Minnesota just grabbed the wrong guy, so we're just going to let him back out. Do they at least say you got to come to trial?
Or probably 0 times, Al. Probably 0 times.
Well, okay, but you get my point.
Illegal aliens. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, so then do they at least say you get out for now, come to your trial, or is it just you get out because they can't prove who you are?
I think they just order them released, and then they're in the wind.
That's crazy.
Maybe they get picked up again. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
Okay. Wow. Read about it at AmericanExperiment.org. It's just gonna tick you off, just like it did me, I'm sure. All right. I wanted your thoughts on the State of the Union Tuesday night. The president came out. I think he was very Donald Trumpy. Here's a medal for you. Here's a medal for you. Here are the guys who won 20 gold medals. He looked like he wanted to be the head of the Olympic Committee that was putting all the gold medals, and that's very Trump. And he was Trump.
Well, State of the Union speeches used to be really boring because they would consist largely of the president getting up there and ticking off a laundry list of legislation that he wants to see passed, 95% of which was never going to see the light of day, And not many people would watch it. It was pretty boring. So Trump has really changed the State of the Union speech. Now it's a pageant.
It is.
He loves to recognize people in the gallery. He's great at it. He'll bring in, and always to make a point, he brings in the parents of the Iranian girl who was murdered on the subway. He brings in that guy that rescued apparently over 100 people dangling from a helicopter with that flood. Texas and all these people. And of course the hockey team is another example of that. He loves to recognize people and to use it to talk about, some of his themes. And he did that, I thought, just masterfully the other night. It was entertaining and it was very patriotic. I think if you say what was the overarching theme of that evening, the speech, but the recognitions that he did and the people that were highlighted and so on, I would say it was patriotism.
Yeah, the 250th anniversary. So he was going to hang with that theme.
250th anniversary of the Declaration of the founding of our country. And so patriotism is kind of the overarching theme. And it's really interesting because whatever you think about Trump, whether you like him or don't, he's very patriotic. Yeah. And that is obviously one of his main qualities. And no matter what he did, it was really kind of unbelievable. No matter what he did, no matter who's being recognized, the Democrats sat on their hands and looked angry. And they wouldn't participate, they wouldn't applaud, they wouldn't stand. And anybody watching, at some point you get the impression, I don't think those people are very patriotic.
Well, he forced that down their throat a little bit. Okay, two things on that. My thought to you, he did if you think our job is to stand up for Americans before illegals, stand up line, where he forced the Democrats.
Yeah.
I get it. And everybody got their little, what we're going to put on the ads when we're running against you as you sat when that question. I get it. But I don't think that's what we want to start it. At some point, a Democrat's going to be president again, and they're going to do the same thing. If you think women aren't in charge of their own bodies, stand up. And, they're good. That's a tough play. That's the one I didn't appreciate in there. I thought
I thought it was the highlight of the evening, Al. I thought it was really clarifying, really clarifying. It's so simple. Stan, if you agree that the purpose of the government is to protect the American people, not illegal aliens. How do you not agree with that?
I get it.
In what world do you not agree with that? But the reality, Al, is that the Democrats don't agree with it. They constantly, and here in Minnesota, we see it more than anywhere. They constantly prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. And so I don't think it was an unfair question or an unfair request. I think it revealed something starkly that is true.
And I give you that. I just think you look farther ahead, we're going to be sitting in that same spot as Republicans going, okay, I can't stand for it, even though I have a apostrophe why I'm not. The other thing is Ilhan Omar. Her and I think it was Tlaib that was sitting next to her. Somebody's got to talk to these people. The president's got a microphone. He gets every word he says is heard. She's screaming at him from the gallery, and they pan out to her. You can't understand what she's saying. I've read it since. Fine, you're a liar, whatever. But you look like a lunatic because no one can actually hear what you're saying. Somebody's got to help these folks and say, that doesn't work for us. You know what I'm saying? They went back to her 2-3 times, and she's got the anger face on. And I would just say, you know what? Wait till it's done. Walk to a microphone and tell us your thoughts. Would seem to work better. They looked a little cray-cray with the screaming.
Well, I thought that they did. I'll tell you one more thing along those lines, Al. I think there were about 70 Democrats, some such number, who boycotted the State of the Union. Yep. And I don't think that's a good idea unless they all do it. If they all do it, well, then all their seats are empty. Okay, fine. They boycotted the speech. But the way it looked the other night, with 70 of them missing, they're a minority anyway. Now 70 of them are missing. They looked like kind of a sad rump minority. I don't think that's a good look for them.
I think Trump would go to break. I think Trump messed up. I told my wife this last night. She thought I was crazy. So, saw the gold medal hockey guys come in and they had to stand up there where all the press was, right? And it was like nice. It was all that. I would, if I was the president, do a Trump thing and say, hey, guys, plenty of seats up here up front. Just come down and sit and pick one of the big,
right.
Like at a hockey tournament where you buy tickets, but if no one shows up in the front row, you go take it. I would have done that. Then all these grumpy-mumplemisses would be sitting right next to a guy with a gold medal.
I agree, Al. I think that would have been beautiful.
Right. So we come to terms. I got to go to break. We'll be back. The government is going to take away some money from Minnesota. Is that right or wrong? We'll talk about that next.
Think about it. Now that school's back in session, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
When the stakes are high at the Minnesota Capitol, you need more than a lobbyist. You need a partner. At Momentum Advocacy, we bring nearly 90 years of combined experience in government relations, public affairs, and strategic communications. From nonprofits to national corporations, we help organizations navigate Minnesota's political landscape with integrity, insight, and results. Whether you need legislative champions or headlines, Momentum Advocacy delivers. For more, visit momentum-advocacy.com. Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol.
It's nice to know a guy that knows a guy. Al Travis.
I've got him. John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment, on with us. I don't know the kind of rock and a hard place this is for Trump and Vice President Vance. Trump made him kind of the fraud czar now, so this is Vance's deal. He came right out right after the State of the Union and said, this is Vance, we're going to hold $259 million in Medicaid payments in Minnesota this month till they can come up with a comprehensive plan. How are they going to stop letting it go, through our fingers? Okay, I can see their side. They give us money. We just funnel it right out to the bad guys. I can see why they would stop, but you stop this, and every paper, every news organization, John, is going to find somebody who lost their Medicaid payment. They're starving in the streets now. Orange man bad. I don't know how the Republicans handle this. And if you think the governor can come up with a plan, he's been here 7.5 years. He didn't come up with a plan. We're going to do this in the last 6 months.
Well, he doesn't want to come up with a plan. If he wanted to, he would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Look, the federal government, these federal agencies have a fiduciary duty to the taxpayers, not of Minnesota, or not only of Minnesota, but of the United States. And these Medicaid programs, and they're being robbed blind, Here in Minnesota, everybody knows that. These programs are funded, I think typically isn't it 2/3 federal, 1/3 state? These are mostly federal dollars that have been getting stolen here in Minnesota. Nobody knows the exact total, and it's still being investigated, and new prosecutions are expected here within the next 90 days. But we have reason to believe that it's $10 billion or more stolen by fraudsters here in Minnesota. And the federal government has a fiduciary duty. That's mostly dollars that were paid by taxpayers in states other than Minnesota. And
Yep.
so if we in Minnesota want to waste our own money, maybe that's our business, but we don't have a right to waste the money that comes from taxpayers in other states. And so I think it's entirely appropriate for the federal government to say, look, we if you want to waste your money, okay, but you can't waste federal dollars. We're not going to just pour them down a rat hole. We've got to investigate and see that this money is being competently administered, or we're not going to give it to you. And as they continue to investigate, as they continue to look into it, as more indictments are brought, more guilty pleas are obtained, it's going to be blindingly obvious that an enormous amount of this money has been stolen and otherwise wasted.
I find that in today's paper itself, Minnesota Star Trib, they have this as the front page story about bad Trump losing, taking $259 million from us. The other story on the front page is how Trump mentioned that there are $9 billion stolen in the state of Minnesota. But their story is, we did the research. It's just $200 million. Was $250 million just $250 million, or is it some unbelievable, you know what I'm saying? The actual stories back to back show they're playing both sides.
Put out that ridiculously low number. I mean, it's unbelievable. So they've actually prosecuted $250 million in fraud and theft in the Feeding Our Future scandal alone.
Yeah.
Former U.S. Attorney Andy Lugar said he thought that the total amount stolen in that one program was $500 million, but they don't have the manpower in the U.S. Attorney's office to prosecute all of it. They had to let the smaller fish go, so they only prosecuted about half of it. Half of it is $250 million. Joe Thompson, the assistant U.S. attorney who's run all these prosecutions, now gone from the U.S. Attorney's office, gave a press conference in which he said that they've been investigating, excuse me, these other Medicaid programs, okay, not Feeding Our Future, other programs, that's not Medicaid, by the way, and $18 billion spent in the last few years. He says a lot of it is fraud. That's what they're finding. And a reporter raised his hand and said, you say a lot, how much is a lot? Joe Thompson said at least half. At least half. Yeah. So that gives you $9 billion. So we don't know yet. Those cases haven't yet been brought. They're in the works. But I think it's safe to say that at least based on what we know, that something like $10 billion or more has been stolen from government programs here in Minnesota.
And a new one, we talked about this. This is so funny.
And
we
by
talked
the way,
about it.
Nobody believes the Star Tribune's number. They put that out there, and everybody knows anything about these scandals looks at it and says, I mean, that's really stupid. I mean, nobody pegs the number anywhere remotely that low.
Okay, I get you. And I don't know what, though I know why they do it. They're running cover. But there's a story we talked about. It was this, I think it was a year ago, maybe two. They started this thing where kids could sign up to go to college, get their government loans to go to our 2-year school all online. I said, well, that's going to lead to nothing but bad stuff. The story this week, 77,000 students got loans to go to Minnesota schools in the last year that never went to school. They signed up, going to be all online, signed up for full load of classes all online, and they got their government check sent to them. And what do you know? They disappeared. 77,000 of them, John. How bad are we with Al's money?
We're so bad, Al. It's other people's money. The people who administer these programs, they don't care. It's not their money. It's just an unbelievable scandal.
Well, the story is they're going to try to figure out how to stop it. Ask Al. You sign up for a class. You're going to do it online. I got it. The first day, you have to meet with your professor. One-on-one, eyeball somebody. At some point, you have to shake a hand with a human. So it isn't just some bot signing up with all the names across the entire country in every state. It's crazy. It's no harder than that. And they don't even do that. I'm just sickened.
Well, it's going to keep happening, Al, until the voters really care.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's just my money going away. I got to fly. I ran out of time to talk about it. We'll do it next week. You got your big summit going on down in Phoenix, but it's in March. We'll get to that. I appreciate you coming on, John. I really do.
Always great to be with you, Al.
He's John Hinderaker. He is the president of the American Experiment.
Think about it.